We are about to start our meeting, and we start by reading a message from the book Our Daily Bread by Emmanuel. Let us give thanks. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. The storm secures, the thorn alerts, bile remedies, fire recasts, garbage fertilizes, storm purifies the atmosphere, suffering redeems, illness alerts, sacrifice enriches life. Death always renovates. Let us learn, therefore, to praise the Lord for the blessings He bestows upon us. Good is the heat that modifies. Good is the cold that preserves. The happiness that stimulates is the sister to the pain that perfects us. Let us pray to Heavenly Providence for enough light, so that our eyes may be able to identify the granary of grace in which we find ourselves. It is our inner blindness that causes us to trip over obstacles, wherein only divine favor exists. And especially upon announcing a noble wish, let us prepare ourselves to receive the lessons which we should take advantage of in order to achieve it according to the superior goal that directs our destiny. Let us not be frightened by difficulties or unforeseen suffering. Not always does the assistance from our high appear in the form of a celestial delicacy. Quite often, it appears in the form of an undesired recourse. Let us remember that an individual in danger of drowning in the deep waters that cover the abyss sometimes succeeds in being saved at the price of hard knocks. Let us give thanks, therefore, for all the experiences of the evolutionary path in the sanctifying search of the divine will in Jesus Christ our Lord.
Dear God, we are here again together for the study of the Spiritist doctrine, for the study of your laws. We ask you to help us to open our heart and our mind to study and to make the changes we already can to become a better person, a good person. May we always think about Jesus, our model and guide, when we need to forgive, when we need to be grateful, when we need to console, when we are in pain and suffering. Please help everyone who is here to be it.
Welcome all of us as we carry on our studies regarding Spiritism inspiring lives, which our purpose is to bring the consoling, hopeful, and universal message of Spiritism to the hearts of English speakers. Understand the English speakers as our brothers and sisters in humanity. I, the incarnate, are all those in spirit. We are all learners. We are all learning a bit more in our journey of evolution, of progress, about the natural laws, about ourselves as immortal beings, about the universe, and so on. And we are studying about the main principles of Spiritism. Do we still remember which kind of principles we studied previously? We are very good in our memories, aren't we? So we do remember which kind of principles did we study so far. Do we still remember what we studied last week? Which kind of principle?
God, the immortality of
the immortality of the soul, yes, that was it, yes. And then before we went and studied different world, the plurality of they existed, the plurality of the worlds, the planets, that was right, that we went through. And today, guess what? We carry on studying about the main principle of Spiritism, and today we will be reflecting upon mediumship. That is what we will be focusing today, so that we can understand a bit more on a broader sense what mediumship is according to Spiritism. We also will touch on a bit about mediums. Of course, our time here is very, very limited in relation to the broad subject which mediumship is. But mediumship is one of the main principles of Spiritism. What comes to our minds when we heard the word mediumship? As the students of Spiritism, what comes to our minds? Nothing? Mediumship, what comes to our minds?
Communication.
Communication.
To perceive those who are outside of the body.
To perceive those who are outside of the body. And when we study mediumship, I think it is relevant for us to start what we learn in the book, What is Spiritism by Allan Kardec, when he says that Spiritism is a science that deals with the nature, origin, and destiny of spirits, as well as their relationship with the corporeal world. So what is the link? How do we understand this definition of Spiritism as a science? Because, you know, Spiritism is a science, philosophy, and religion. But here, when we study mediumship, we bring into also the aspect, the scientific aspect of Spiritism, isn't it? And so what comes to our mind when we read that, when we heard? Is that between what you just said, communication between spirits? So as much as we learn here through the book, what is Spiritism? And why do we say that Spiritism is a science? Any idea? Is it a human science?
It's not the same as most human sciences, but it's a science because we don't simply accept what comes to us without first questioning, analyzing, and testing the principles before accepting them.
Yes, so it's not a human science, but it's a divine science, which embraces human science, considering that human science is evolving constantly towards the divine or the natural science. And here also what we see that mediumship, because how did Allan Kardec develop the scientific aspect of Spiritism? Wasn't it through mediumship? Through mediumship. This is why we brought this aspect first, because it was through mediumship. And then if you carry on here in the book by Leon Denis, which says, the set of faculties that enable the human being to communicate with the invisible world is called mediumship. How is that coming to us now? How do we understand Leon Denis, which is a great French philosopher who also contributed and collaborated within Spiritism? So when we use his words to define mediumship, how could we decodify it or express it in our own words, which could also help others who are studying with us, perhaps especially those who never heard of it?
It's a set of faculties because it isn't simply one way of communicating. So that's what we study in the medium's book. It's the different faculties, different ways of passing through messages. So it can be through auditory, it can be speaking, it can be written, it can be through sound, it can be simply perception. So it's a set of faculties. And when we talk about faculties, there are things that need to be developed within the spirit, just like a university would be, developed within the spirit. To enable us to communicate with the invisible world. And when we say invisible, it's invisible to us as as, how do we say, almost blind. I don't know how, it's like we're almost blind in our physical corporeal bodies, because it's not invisible to the spirit to spirit.
So could I say that it is invisible for us through the five senses, which is the physical eye, in that way it is invisible, it is not visible, but for those, as we will carry on learning later on, those who have more developed already the faculties beyond the five senses or have these special faculties, programmed and organized through the reincarnation process, they can see beyond the five senses. And these days here on earth, we have more and more people which those faculties are becoming natural, although some of them may not understand yet, but Spiritism will explain very clearly. Yes, Jan?
I was studying today about the spirits. And I think the study of mediumship involves the knowledge of this different body, different matter, and we don't study the same way we study the physical body.
So, good reminder, when we talk about or reflect about mediumship, is important or relevant for us to understand that we are a three-dimensional being while we are incarnated, while we are in the physical body, meaning that we are essentially immortal being, which is a spirit or soul, as some call, and then we have the intermediate body or the spiritual body, for us called perispirit, and then we have the physical body, which is the external body that we have. But when we talk about mediumship, yes, we are referring a lot about the perispirit, the spiritual body, where we have those faculties. Okay, then we carry on here with Herculano Pires. Cynthia, would you like to read that for us, please?
Medium means mediator, intermediate. Mediumship is the human natural faculty by which the relationships between man and spirits are established.
Okay, what comes to how would we develop that? Imagine that we would reflect upon these words and explain within our own way of understanding for those who may never heard. When we take the first phrase, medium means mediator, intermediate. When we talk about mediumship, are we talking also between lines about medium? Yes, and what comes to our minds now? Medium means mediator, intermediate. How could we explain for those who never heard about it?
I think I would say because we're still in the very early stages of evolution, matter has a great influence on us, so sometimes it's very difficult for us to perceive the spiritual world. But some of us come with this faculty, which is a natural, like you say, a natural faculty that enables us to perceive beings who do not have this physical body, but they are human beings, if you say this way, like us. Then after the death of the physical body, continue living.
Correct. And then medium means mediator, intermediate. Mediator what? Of whom? Instrument, correct. Of what? Between beings, isn't it? Between incarnates and disincarnates, or disincarnate with disincarnate, between spirits in different, either in a physical level, but we also can be mediums in a different dimension, depending where we are in which level of evolution. But it is an instrument.
What I remember now is a lecture from Marcelli, where he was saying that medium is like a tool, that can be used. And the more that we make ourselves capable, like the little box full of tools, the better we can be that instrument. And some of us are just a screwdriver, and some of us are just a hammer, but some of us is an actual box full of different sorts of...
Good, very good. So is it, when we study now, is there something that we think we are all mediums? Are we all mediums?
Yes.
Yes. Why, Andre?
Different levels.
Different levels. Mediums will teach us that we are all mediums in general. Why?
Communicate.
Because we are constantly communicating with each other. Really? I don't do that. I can say that if I don't have to understand it, can I? But what would you say to me then?
Because you're always thinking.
Because I'm always thinking. But that is within my brain, Danny.
But then only when we study, we realize that thoughts are energy and they impact the atmosphere and that thoughts communicate.
Okay, so when we referred previously that when we are incarnate, we are three-dimensional beings, a spirit, astral body, or perispirit, and physical body. So we all are communicating constantly as spirits, where the brain on the physical body is the instrument of communication. Yes, and in that way we are all communicating in the universe. It's very good to know that. Now we carry on in the Medium's book, which is refers to as Danusa, read it for us, please.
Anyone who feels in any degree the influence of the spirits is, by that fact, a medium. This faculty is inherent in man, as therefore not an exclusive privilege.
Okay, let's explore that. What do we learn now through the Medium's book regarding mediumship here? What comes to our minds when we read that?
I wonder what Kardec means by anyone who feels in any degree the influence of the spirit. What would that mean?
I don't know, for me it comes helping me to, in my self-development, to be aware where I am on my emotional development. Because he says feel, he's not saying think, it's feeling. But also I think in any degree, meaning that we are all unique beings, therefore we have unique ways how we perceive and feel things, isn't it? Anyone who feels in any degree the influence of the spirit, how do we feel the influence of the spirits?
Feelings.
Through the feelings. Which kind of feelings? Because I think he may also refer to the different...
It can be our physical sensation, goosebumps, cold chills, sometimes feeling on the head, different places in the physical body, but it can be feelings as in emotions as well.
Correct.
All of a sudden the change of moods, and it can be positive or negative, which directly impacts the thoughts or vice versa. So it's different ways of feeling.
Mm-hmm. We can also feel a part of what you said, very warm sometimes on this part of the body, which is the heart chakra, yes, the love chakra. Or some people feel the warmth on this part, or the involvement on the arms, yes. So we feel it, again, although we are all mediums, more or less, let's say in general, but we have, as we are unique, we may feel and notice it in a different parts in our body. Where are you? Is that helping you? So how would you say in your words now? Anyone who feels in any degree the influence of the spirits?
Maybe would say, well, how do I know that this is not my fault? Like, because you said those emotions, they are so subtle.
Cynthia, we are talking about the feeling. You go up in the head. Yes, how do I know? How do I feel? I guess we all are, as we carry on studying and using this study of Spiritism as a self-knowledge process, we gradually will learn to discern, isn't it? What happened?
I was just thinking, because these feelings, they're there for a reason. It's not just by chance that we feel somewhere in our bodies. So the spirit reaches us where we are. So for instance, let's say with me personally, I'll feel sometimes it's like somebody's blowing a wind in my ear. And the minute I feel that little wind, I start paying attention to what I'm thinking and feeling. Start paying attention to that and focusing on that. And I can't always decipher it, but then I just become cognitively more aware that actually there may be somebody trying to communicate with me. I'm meant to be a little bit more alert, a little bit more aware. Or maybe something, I'm feeling the cold in my head. I'm feeling it, it's in my head. Okay, well maybe this is the point where maybe I should go into prayer and think about it, because if maybe there's something, and then use my rationale to focus on these feelings and what is it going to, and then the more we repeat it, the easier it becomes to decipher it. It's not going to happen from one minute to the other, because like the first slide said, it's a faculty. It's something that we're developing slowly and gradually, paying attention, working with the spirit, not expecting them to just give it to us immediately.
And not necessary when we have, let's say, the negative feelings, how we call them, not necessary it is a negative experience. As long as we are aware of our purpose or objective or goals, which is to constantly develop ourselves towards the characters of a good person, then we learn to administrate the negative thoughts or the negative feelings. And then we are developing our superior faculties. Yeah?
I was thinking, because she said how subtle it is, and for me, because when I feel sometimes an intuition that I shouldn't go somewhere, that I shouldn't, it just feels wrong. I don't know how to explain, but it feels unbalanced.
So you're feeling, you notice inspiration. Yes. Yes, as more as we learn to listen to ourselves, we also bring the inner wisdom, we also learn something, and as more as we are studying, more aware, we become more willing, we also are consciously willing to be going in the right direction, and that opens our channel with our spiritual benefactors, that amplifies the possibility to be inspired by them. When we would like perhaps to go down that road, they may inspire us not to go, or whatever, because we are always surrounded by them, but we need to open our channels for that. Okay? And then carry on here. Danusa, would you like to read that?
It must be said that mediumship is not an improvisation or a chance event, Cynthia. It is part of the individual's organic constitution and has its roots planted in causes and decisions prior to the time of its manifestations.
So, how is that coming to you now? Is that right to you? So then as a teacher's then, huh?
She explained really well.
No, she just read and said, Cynthia, that's what she did. So what is coming to our minds now? It must be said that mediumship is not an improvisation. Why is mediumship not an improvisation from the Spiritism perspective?
Is it because we agreed before coming here that we would?
So we, considering ourselves as immortal beings, before coming back to a physical body, we were in the spiritual realm and talking alive with our benefactors, and according to our previous experiences as learners as we all are, the benefactors presented us with the possibility of mediumship, ostensive mediumship in these things, for us to evolve more, for us to progress more. So it's not improvisation, because it's part of our program through the law of reincarnation, assisted by our dear friends, which we don't, perhaps may not know now. Cynthia, you look so odd. What is it? Left out, where are you?
No, I know this. I was just thinking, comparing our body to a car, because I was thinking there is the design of the car, and certain cars are for you to drive in the land, others for you to drive in the street. And it's the same with our body, depending on what we need to learn. We will have a design according to that. But when you say, I still have the word still written in my mind, but it doesn't make any sense for me, the feeling. I was thinking, how do I perceive these spirits? The one way I know is I feel like someone is approaching me, coming, because when someone comes towards you, even if you don't look, you know someone is coming. This is the way
you know, but not everybody knows. Okay.
But yeah.
So you feel almost the shadow.
No, just to feel someone is coming, so close to you.
So you're talking about the feeling, the perception, energetic level, what Jenny said previously, yeah? But how do we feel? As you said, it's different for all of us. Is that making sense?
And it's a developed faculty. When we look at it as something that we've developed, we focus more on it to expand it. Because like you said, not everybody notices it. And we have different schools of thoughts, different spiritual schools of thoughts that are teaching people how to become more receptible. So we've been through these schools of thoughts, and now we're coming here, bringing it together with the science and the logic. We just need to remember. That's all it is, because that's already been developed. So if I feel somebody coming, and I know that's something that I've already developed in me as an immortal being. Now I just need to focus on it and expand it a bit more, remembering everything. Always remember your little hands. Everything we focus expands. Everything, and it can be positive or negative, and especially with mediumship.
Yes, with mediumship. What helps us? You rightly said there are different schools of thought, but within Spiritism, what helps us to develop our mediumistic faculties? Prayer. What else? There is something very important.
Study of the gospel.
A study of the gospel, about Spiritism, what else? Would it be right in saying that what really helps is to open our psychic channels for all of us, and is gradual and is different because we are unique? It is the moral transformation. It's the ethical transformation.
I just remembered now how to share that when he was starting as a little child, and he'd start seeing spirits and get disturbed with it, he said that he'd start reading the Bible. And the more you read the Bible, the more the spirits would appear, and the more he would become a little bit, until he decided to face it and decide to direct that into a certain way. So it's not something we can run away from.
We cannot, and because it is part, as we saw on the previous slide, and it's not an improvisation, because we have been organized through the spiritual body, which is the perispirit, which impacts our physical body. If we were programmed with ostensive nature, we cannot run away. But what is the purpose is? The purpose is for us to evolve psychologically, emotionally, to grow within the natural laws in the universe. So to learn. So we need, in order to progress, to evolve, we need to get to know who we are, how we feel, how we are interacting with our own nature, and how can we develop ourselves more and more in a balanced, centered way, so that we are tuning in more to the superior spirits, to the good beings, that we also expand more the good abilities within ourselves, that we overcome the shadows, because this is part of the constant renewal, the constant actualization that we go through. But we cannot run away, because it's already organized in the perispirit, the astral body, and therefore manifests through the central nervous system in the biological level. So we cannot eradicate that. But what we can do is to educate ourselves. That is the right word to say. And we are all in a proposal of educating ourselves on Earth, considering that Earth is a school for all of us.
And we have as well, for English speakers, it's that film Ghost is a brilliant illustration of it. You know, we can play with mediumship for as long as we want to, but when the time comes to actually, but we can't run away from it. You know, people brings it in a really comical sense. But then the emotions that come from that movie, and we know that Shuka really loved it as well, is because it's so real, it's so intense.
Yes, we cannot run away. And if you don't face it, face means not that I have to, it is a choice. So if I choose not to look within myself and to learn and to educate and to promote myself within the superior aspects within our own consciousness, then we will be tuning into other consciousness which are in the lower sphere, and we will be suffering the consequences of that. And Spiritism is here really to teach us, it's almost like part of a medicine, as I would say, or part as a spiritual tool to promote psychological and emotional balance and psychological and emotional health, and therefore also biological health if we look after ourselves on the mediumship level here. Then the next one we carry on. Tony, read it for us, please. It's within the book, What is Spiritism?
The providential aim of spirits manifestations is to convince these believers that all does not end for human beings when their life on earth ends, and to give believers a more correct idea regarding the future. Good spirits come to instruct us for our improvement and progress, but not to reveal to us what we must not yet know, or what we must learn solely by our own efforts.
Okay, let's explore that. What is coming to our minds now regarding mediumship? What has been presented through the book, What is Spiritism by Allan Kardec. If we break it, then it's easier. When we take the first phrase in this paragraph, how do we hear it? What do we learn from it?
Why do the spirits manifest, or why do we have the manifestation of these spirits? It's just it's like a wake-up call to see that life doesn't end.
So it's a wake-up call. What else? Life doesn't end in which sense?
With the death after this.
So it's helping us to awake within the immortality of the soul, the continuation of life.
Book Heaven and Hell, where Allan Kardec starts off with trying to combat nihilism, which is one of the most detrimental parts of materialism, which is I need to live here and now, and get the best here now, otherwise, because there's nothing else after here. And that helps to expand our selfishness and our pride. So here, this is the part where the spirits are coming here to awaken us, to take us away from that. To awaken, and sometimes it doesn't have to be that extensive, but if we can just move away from nihilism, if we can move away from the idea that this is all that we have, that's already a progress in the spirit evolution.
What else that awakening helps us to understand? We are so passionate about Earth, aren't we? So what is that helping us? You said that life continues, therefore is helping us to understand that actually the material level of experiences is not the real level that we are here in. Because we as brothers and sisters in humanity, we all already have been for centuries and centuries on the physical level, but we became very attached to matter, to the materialistic way of living. And now, through the manifestation, through mediumship, through the manifestation, within the interaction of the beings who already lived on Earth, who freed themselves from the physical body, they are coming back, they are telling their experiences, they are letting us know, well, I lived my life in that way, and look where I am now. They are teaching us, they are helping us, that we don't need necessarily to go through what they went through, but we can make different choices still as we are on Earth.
Can I just say brackets about materialism as well, because I was just thinking now, because there's a difference between us developing ourselves, I just can't get it, developing ourselves here in the material world. And again, Alberto Meda comes to mind, where he's got that project that he's developing now, and he's thinking of disincarnating and coming back and continuing the project. And sometimes we're building here, we're building. It's not for us to disqualify that building in the material world, but the idea of nihilism is that we're not going to care about what's going to happen after. It's a completely different concept of materialism.
Yes, I think the materialism in these things, at least the way that I understand, because otherwise, if we not build, we would be very lazy and sit there and cross our arms and not doing anything. When I understand it regarding materialism, is what belongs to Earth. But when we are within proposals like Alberto Meda, that means that he is building in relation to proposals which refer to the immortality of the soul. That will be a continual process, and that we all have responsibility to cooperate in these projects, because we are immortal. Now we are here promoting and helping to build. Well, later on, if we choose now to engage in these processes, later on we are granted the possibility to carry on, to come back and carry on. Yes? Because everything and everyone is in the evolution process. But whatever is under the line of spiritual development while we are in the material level, that will last. But whatever I build with my intention, my focus on Earth, that will vanish. Is that making sense? Okay. And then we have here, good spirits come to instruct us for our improvement and progress, but not to reveal to us what we must not yet know or what we must learn solely by our own efforts. What do we learn now by that second phrase?
I love this and I hate it at the same time, you know.
How is that? Why do you love and why do you hate?
I love it because whenever we're being impulsed to improve and to progress, we know it's due to the assistance of the good spirits. That's motivating, and it's knowing that we're not alone in this whole process, because there's a lot of progress to do, a lot of improvement to do. And also the idea that once we do develop this progress, it's going to be due to our own efforts, which is really great, you know, because it's something that can't be taken away from us. It's like a mind that expands will never go back to the same size again. But at the same time, it's annoying, because there's some things where you just want the answer to, you know, isn't it?
And then we learn to be patient and carry on putting effort into, so that we expand our neurons. But see, good spirits, who are the good spirits? Imagine people who are studying with us, the spirits were never heard. Who are the good spirits? Yeah. Someone can say me.
They're just like us, but they make better choices, and they are in a more
So they are also immortal spirits as us, but they already used the free will, making wiser choices than we did. Therefore, they are more advanced than us. And they always, those who are more advanced, really, morally, they will always look back and help the others. So we lived together in previous existences. Don't ask me how many, but we lived together and we have the same tendencies, but suddenly they say, you know what, I don't want anymore this or that. And we said, well, I want that still. And they moved on, they evolved, now they are coming and help us and inspiring us, for us also to learn to use the free will and make wiser choices. So we all have the good spirits, which are those who are helping us towards the progress. Yes. And the effort, what else comes to us? They leave it up to us, for us to exercise our own efforts. You said previously, because then no one can take the learning from me if I put my effort in. It's true. What else is a consequence for us to exercise the efforts? The internal efforts to progress, to evolve. What else is very important as a consequence? That we cannot buy, that no one can give us. The merit. The merit, isn't it? We will have the merit, and then even if someone else is jealous with us or whatever, but we have the merit because we conquered it through our effort. What do we actually understand effort when we talk about immortal spirits?
I think it's because of our resistance.
Okay, yes, because the effort refers us to, not on a physical level, but refers us to our internal reference, the psychological and emotional dimension. Therefore, to make effort to overcome my own old patterns, my old belief systems, or my emotional responses in the old way, now making effort to restructure, to re-educate myself. And that is the beauty, because we come out stronger. Stronger not on the ego level, more active, no, less. Stronger on the self level. Stronger in confidence. Stronger in faith. Yeah? We can all do this.
Remembering as well, if we go back to the beginning, it's the aim is to show that, that life doesn't end here, but we inherit ourselves.
Yeah.
So the fact that we inherit ourselves, we don't always inherit the best of ourselves. And that's why we have to make so many efforts to re-educate it and to inherit something better in the future.
That's a very good point. Yes, all of us who are here, we are immortal beings. We are in the flesh here, others may be coming back. Sooner or later we go back to the spiritual world, then we come back again. But we are always inheriting ourselves. So that for itself is a good reason for us to make efforts to overcome our reductionist views and aspects and reference, and train ourselves within what is real that we can take with us. Because later on, when we are in the flesh now, we still need to go back to the spiritual world, and God knows when we come back, but we still need to go through the law of reincarnation. But all the efforts that we promote ourselves, that will be for good, for better, and we will benefit from it. Sometimes in this existence already, but for sure also in the others.
It's interesting because on Monday you talk a lot about the limits. What is the limits of the efforts you can make? Because there was a discussion about this, and I think the spirits usually tell us that we need to do the minimum efforts. If they constantly are reminding us, let's do the minimum efforts, and even the minimum efforts, sometimes we don't.
Yeah. I like that question, because at the beginning when I read, but when you carry on studying, what they are saying us, they are inspiring us through the questions, through the studies, that, not even the efforts that you put, that means you can do much more than you think you are capable, because that is what they are trying to tell us. You can do, I mean all of us, we can do much more than what we believe actually. So now we carry on then from the book, What is Spiritism? Andrea, would you like to read for us, please?
The first regrettable consequence of persons divert their faculty from its providential and is to be followed by the
Deceitful?
Deceitful spirits that swarm around people. The second is to fall under the control of the same spirits who can, by way of the false advice, lead them to real material misfortune. The third is to lose after death the benefit of having
Known Spiritism. Okay, so let's reflect here. What do we take from this as part from the book, What is Spiritism by Allan Kardec, when we are reflecting about the main principle of Spiritism today, mediumship?
I can't remember which book it is that he talks about different ways of seeing spirituality, and there's one that sees speaking to all spirits are bad, or speaking to all spirits are good, the two extremes, whereas he brings us back to the center to focus that there are risks to it, and there are consequences to it as well, depending on the choices that the medium makes.
Which kind of choices would we as mediums choose if that we may regret later on? Was I clear in my question? Which kind of choices could we as medium choose that we would regret later on?
Using for our personal interests.
Use mediumship for my personal interests? In which way could that be?
To gain something.
To gain money or to gain advantage or to whatever. What else? Not to use it for the good of all? Would that also bring consequences that I will regret later on?
To manipulate power, because power is even more attractive than money.
Correct.
So, and we don't have that really clear within ourselves what our intentions are, and we're medium, it's really easy to become portals, instruments of deceitful spirits.
Precisely.
And make masses believe in us and inflate the ego even more, and then that's the downfall.
Yes, that we will sooner or later on, either in this existence or in others, we will regret that. Because we are all here, as we saw previously, we have been organized in order to be instrument of goodness and to promote everyone towards goodness and not the contrary, to be connected more with the good spirits.
So this is why we're studying, because a lot of people don't like the idea of morale and studying morale, and it's not futile. It's because when it comes to things like this, to mediumship, we become more secure in a secure base. Why is it that we need to deal with our pride and our selfishness? Because if we're not careful and find out exactly where the pin hits in our pride, we easily fall into that, and then we don't know why it is that we are in the turmoils that we're in. And it's literally because at the back of all of our intentions is that pride coming up, that selfishness coming up, that ego boosting up. So that's the reason why we need to keep on working on it so much. It's not
Yes. We are a bit vulnerable, we as humanity, in relation to morale, because we are the spirits from centuries and centuries. We went against the ethical values of life. And the ethical values of life refer directly towards the universal laws that we all carry within. So we don't like, because it means that we will be referred to, this is not wise or this is not. And we have this internal reference that I do what I want through pride and selfishness. But in reality, ethical values, moral values, they are fundamental for us to develop even our emotional intelligence. We sometimes don't make the connections, because otherwise we get stuck in one level if we don't advance. And the ethical moral values is important to understand. They are references referring to the universal laws that we all have. And as more as we choose to develop ourselves in according to them, we will be the first one who will be healing us, who will be centering us, who will be feeling happier, who will be feeling more balanced within, and all the good aspects start to be stimulated by us that we bring in germs already. So there's two good reasons for us to follow that pathway and to renew the old reference that we may still have from previous existences. Because in reality, the moral aspects, the ethical aspects, which we can refer to as the virtues, they are all summarized in one day in the celestial worlds as love. And we resist when we hear ethical moral, but actually it's an invitation that is presented to all of us for us to learn to love ourselves, learn others, learn life, learn God, love God. Yeah. And then carry on, we have now Ivone do Amaral Pereira, who teaches us the practice of mediumship is a serious commitment with the law of God and the unconscious. How is that coming to us? What does Ivone do Amaral Pereira, which was a great, great medium while she was on earth in her last existence, after she went through several existences in which she committed suicide, and then she came and have that gift, let's say, from God in order to help. And gosh, she worked in a very different scenario where we are today. Because she didn't have her own home. She was leaving bits and bits and family members. She wrote that book, which is? Memoirs de Suicide. How to translate that? Memoirs of Suicide. And she wrote she didn't have paper properly. She, when you go to the bakery and you buy your bread and you have that paper, she opened that and she wrote that book in those papers because she didn't have anyone. And how many of us are benefiting now? So mediumship is really a training. When we say serious commitment, it's not in a sense it is imposed. Sometimes it can be presented to us, but serious in a sense of the deep level of commitment that we agreed already as a spirits within ourselves in relation to God's laws for us to progress and evolve.
The fact that we're still coming out of the caves when it comes to mediumship, when you read things like it's a serious commitment, what comes to my mind is because we don't know the universe, we only know this world. So we don't know who we're communicating with and what it is that we're communicating and what it is that we can affect if we're not taking it seriously. Because if we look at history, we've always had mediumship. Why is it that now we're being invited for it to become so serious? Why is it that certain religions have forbidden it completely? Because we didn't know how to take it seriously.
And yet, even those religions who still today prohibited, but they have members in the groups who are mediums. Because mediumship is part of the natural laws. This is what Spiritism is coming now. Why is this now more, let's say, visible and more intensive everywhere? Because it's time for us as humanity to wake up towards the understanding that we are immortal beings. To wake up towards the love of God, towards the law of progress, towards the law of evolution, towards the immortality of the soul. It's not only what you have on earth. You are not a body, you are immortal. So it's helping us, it's almost like to break through the dark barrier that we carry from materialism. So it's coming everywhere. A lot of people from different religions, although they may not be able to express that, but they feel quite tormented sometimes because some of them are very ostensive mediums. I did have a time ago, because I work with people from different religious belief systems, because they are just people, but it's quite disturbing when you are in a path of spirituality which negates what you in itself already feel, see, and notice. That is quite bad. So here we are, through the teachings of the Enlightened Spirits, pouring into whole humanity. There is nothing abnormal. That is normal. That is normal to be medium, to have the faculties more ostensibly, to see, to perceive, or to hear. What Spiritism is helping us, that we need to learn to observe what we think and feel and do, so that we choose through our self-education process to tune into the higher potentials that we bring within, and therefore connect more with those superior or enlightened or good spirits. Although we also will feel the inferior ones, as we call those who are in suffering and pain, but if we sustain ourselves more towards the goodness, we can help them, and that is the purpose of charity. We will not be influenced by that. We also, as you said previously, through our own pride, through our own selfishness, through our own moral diseases, we tune in and we become one of them, which is you. Yes, then?
Sometimes I think a lot about these commitments, and it is a little bit heavy because I feel like because we know the world is the planet shifting, it's becoming more evolved, and there is more work. And I feel sometimes, okay, I feel awful if on the other side I realize I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And how do we make this a bit lighter? Because I can only do now, but I know.
How do you do it lighter? Serious commitment doesn't mean heritage. Does it make sense? Jesus teaches us. How did he say to us? His journey was light. So why is heavy for us? Because we are very attached to the passions, the earthly passions, to the values that still predominates a lot of pride and selfishness. But when he came and still is teaching us humbleness and charity, and as more as we open ourselves, as more as we use our time for that purpose, in a free, spontaneous choice, we are alleviating ourselves within, because we are recycling our psychic energies, which we bring from the old belief systems, from the old experience. So it's almost like we need to grasp the time that God gave to us in order to produce and evolve within God. Does that make sense? It's almost like every moment that we can, don't slip. When I say don't slip, I mean don't waste time. Because every day has 24 hours for us. We cannot go back anymore. Each day that we live on earth is gone. We cannot go back anymore. Oh, I wish on that day I have done. Invest in every moment with wisdom. And wisdom we're also developing. Overcoming laziness, overcoming or illusions, overcoming whatever the blockage points are there. And in that way, we will reach a point. Those who already broke through more on the selfishness and pride, which is really the big, hard way that we need to break through, they have pleasure in just doing what God wants us to do. Serve all, everyone. Be good everywhere. It's raining. Doesn't matter. I'm not made by sugar. I move on, move forward, because each obstacle that we break through, we come out stronger. Okay?
I was reading a book yesterday, and it was said that we need to learn to like what we do. And the author said when we do that, we enter into a state of, he called flow, which means what we think, feel, and act is in harmony. Yes, and he gave the example of a musician when he was playing the instrument. He was so satisfied, he was so happy that he was in a state that he felt really, really good. I think when we learn to like what we're doing, it doesn't feel that heavy, because we're here and we like to be here, or doing whatever we're doing, we like to be doing that.
Yes, it reminds us that when we choose to learn to do things through what we ought to do, what we came to do, and we do it spontaneously without complaining. The complaining makes us heavy energetically. Then it's also lighter. I know there's not something that I like to do, yet is in front of me because the universe wants me to promote. So I embrace the opportunity, change my belief system, and go and do it anyway. In that way, we are ready.
And we might be working 2 hours, but it seems that only a minute has passed.
Precisely. Because that is what Joanna de Anjos, the spiritual benefactor, says, that the majority of us, we are heavy attached on the physical passions, and it's the inferior passions from the stomach downwards. You know what I mean? And she's inviting us to develop the superior passions, which involves our psychological and emotional dimension. And as more as we engage with that, we have literally a spiritual ecstasy. Such a renewal of free inner movement that we feel, because we engage in that movement of love that comes from God. Yeah? So remember, every day, every second is an opportunity to renew ourselves. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, we learn the mediums in present time received from God a free gift to be interpreters of the spirits, for the sake of men, to show them the way of good and lead them to faith. We have been touching on slightly on it, but how could we reframe it in a different way, or perhaps some new ideas came to us. It's what you said previously, yes? All mediums always existed, always. They were prohibited because they didn't know how to interact accordingly. Mediums, they were always good, and also on the other side. But here, for the sake of man, so we are granted with the possibilities as ostensive mediums as we all are or not, to help Jesus, to help people, to help spirits, incarnates or disincarnates, to show the pathway of goodness. Goodness according to the universal laws, not goodness according to my personal interests or my pride and selfishness.
So lead them to faith. What came to mind was the lecture on Sunday. Is faith, what do I understand as faith? Real faith. So this is the whole idea of mediumship, to lead us back to the essence of what we are, isn't it?
Yes.
And when we really develop faith, not in the sense like we've been doing for centuries,
Right.
going there, doing the sign of the cross and expecting the outside to change the inside.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that reminds me, each time when I read the word faith, reminds me of the Spirit Emmanuel, who says that faith is a divine sentiment. So in that way, mediumship helps us to activate, to stimulate the divine faculties within, so that we can also spread and share with those who are around us. The first condition of the benevolence of good spirit is humility, devotion, selflessness, the most absolute moral and material disinterest. How is that coming to us? Do we want to connect with the good spirits? Of course, Ebenezer, what a question. Is there a condition for that? Yes, there is. What it is? What is it? What is it? Benevolence. Learn to be benevolent. What is benevolence? How do I practice benevolence at home? Kindness. What else?
Respect.
Respect to everyone who lives with me. That I live in a single room, but you have a landlady or a landlord, you have neighbors, you go to the supermarket. We all are in relationships. Yeah? And then it carries on, humility. Are we training ourselves to be humble? Do we like that on our feeling level? To learn to be humble? To pull down my ego? Is that something that I'm comfortable or very disturbed by? And then he carry on saying in the gospel, devotion. What do we understand about? Which is one of the conditions to attract, to be connected with good spirits. What does it mean, devotion? To whom? To me? No, please, Ebenezer, get out of the selfish way that you lead for centuries. The gospel is teaching you to learn to devote towards the good for everyone. So instead of carrying on being selfish, he is inviting me to develop the capacity of altruism. Selflessness, what is that? What does it mean? Not to take care of myself? No? What is that?
To be less selfish.
To be less selfish. That means more altruistic, more humble, more benevolent, more indulgent, more forgiving, more loving, more cooperative. And we stop here. And then we still have, the more we broaden our consciousness and who we are, more spiritualized we become. The perception of a person's reality has the exact dimension of its own consciousness. How is that related to mediumship? What happens when we broaden, when we expand spiritually?
I think as much we grow, more information we have.
Of whom? Us as immortal beings, as spirits, as divine beings, as we all are. And as more as we become aware and more we put the effort into to spiritualize ourselves, more we moralize ourselves, more ethical we become, and more awareness of the real world do we have. Freer we are from within. easier it is for us to engage in proposals that the good spirit invites us to work for the good of everyone. That is the use of mediumship according to our program that we have been programmed in the spiritual world. In the mediumship field, the will has predominance. Associated with reason, it is the will that will bring the root to be followed and maintained. Willpower. Where are we? They are very important. The predominance is very important because if I don't develop my willpower, I'm handing over that faculty to somebody else to guide me, isn't it? And the superior spirits wants me to use and train my willpower according to the superior values. So if I don't educate myself at that level, others will guide me different ways. So through the willpower, we will be following our root, our destiny that we have been programmed here on earth, and also sustain it. Because the start is easy, but sometimes maintain and sustain and carry on. Yeah.
One question maybe, I don't know if you can answer this. So when we bring to the root, is it this Spiritism?
It is printed already in the spiritual world,
Yes.
Through our reincarnation plan. And here we are now learning to train our free will according to God's will so that we maintain our proposal and grow and evolve and progress and also help others who are with us. Yeah? And also coming to the end, as for the psycho-emotional symptoms of mediumship such as irritability, mood swings, panic attacks, crying spells, etc., we must remember the pineal gland connection with the emotional center, hypothalamus, and our physical body. Is that making sense? Is that important regarding mediumship for us to understand? Are we still all a bit irritable? Or do we have neighbors who are? I know someone who is even easy. Mood swings. Are we still dealing with mood swings? In the morning, start with good mood. Suddenly, something I'm shut down again. I need to be aware of these mood swings and sustain myself in goodness internally. Crying spells, which is quite common when we deal with mental health issues here. That is very important understanding about mediumship so that we can learn about those aspects. And then it is not the mediumship that generates the disorder in the body, but the spiritual energy which favors or not the disharmony. That is because as we started reflecting about mediumship today, and we are all mediums, we all think and feel, and if it's negative, I will intoxicate myself with that and will bring the mental and emotional disharmony down to the physical body if I don't take care of that before. But also, every moment we can change that disharmony in harmonizing our thinking and feelings. And then we would still reflect on the obsession, which we don't have time today, because if you don't learn how to direct our mediumship towards what is good for everyone, according to the natural laws of life, to constantly renewing ourselves, and not as a heavy proposal, but enlightening ourselves, choosing, knowing that every moment here on earth, school earth, we can improve ourselves. And in that way, we will go through the process of self-disobsession, and also will not be so vulnerable to be influenced by those brothers and sisters in our mind which still hate and are against the happiness of God's children. So our proposal is happiness and goodness, and in that way we are also promoting ourselves. Mediumship is a gift that is given to us for us to learn to be day by day beings, instruments of goodness, of light, of love, of charity, wherever we are. And in that way, we are coming to the end today. And then we salute the common prayer.
Dear Lord, we give thanks for these moments in which we are able to unite in spirit to study the divine laws through Spiritism. Lord, may we give thanks to the benefactor spirits which watch over us, and may we choose each and every one of us to develop within ourselves the faculties of mediumship for the sake of goodness. So be it.
Much peace to all, and hopefully see us next week.